Hello to everybody. I try to speak English. Thanks, Dovis, for the words of introducing me. I'm Deputy Mayor of the City of Torino, and I work on urban regeneration policies, integration policies, youth, and other stuff. Anyway, I started 20 years ago as technician, as professional, to work in the neighborhoods of Torino. So I started to be inside the institution 10 years later, so I have, yes, an experience. I have lots of failures on my back as well, not only successes, but that's the history of people that work on the ground. So I try to give you just a point of view. That is the point of view of a non-specialized approach, but of a global approach of urban regeneration. What does it mean? Just to give you some milestone, in the European Union countries, the reflection and the debate on the urban situation, the so-called urban question, started at the beginning of the 90s. In the 93, there was the so-called Green Book of the Urban Question during the Jacques Delors Commission. I don't know, was a great period for Europe, with the idea that integration of people, countries, network of citizens was the challenge for the future. Anyway, in the 93, with the Green Book, the European Union launched the debate on the urban question. The 80% of European population lives in the cities. That means that cities are the more rich part, but the more poor part of Europe. Inside the city, you have the contradiction of economical development, where you are the richness and the poorness all together in the same space. Starting to this point, a lot of European programs were launched in this year, as the Urban Project, Urban Pilot Projects, and others. So I started to work in this period, so I have 20 years of failures on my back. Because Europe now have not the same idea and vision of the future. But anyway, we have learned a lot in this year. So we started in this city, in Torino, to work, because Torino was and is a typical post-Fordist city of Europe, an industrial city that during the 90s started to work on new identities, faced with the fact that the industrial of the last century, the period of the industrial of the last century is over, and was absolutely necessary to work with the new identities and a new question that the city proposed. Of course, there are neighborhoods, territories inside the city, very different. The city is not homogeneous, is very plural. In general, just to give you very schematically an idea, we have new neighborhoods born during the last century around the manufacture, industrial, and so there are the typical social housing neighborhoods where normally the workers used to live around the labor, and very homogeneous from the sociological point of view. All the workers used to live there, so they can recognize each other because they work in the same place, they are in the same trade union, they share the same style of life. And these neighborhoods, the new one, the social neighborhoods, the so-called social housing neighborhoods, of course, when the manufactural industrial were over, they started to become older, with new inhabitants that arrived from other parts of the world. And so the social crisis started to be evident. A lot of unemployment, etc. On the other side, in the historical part of the city, here we are in a historical part of the city, in Barriera di Milano, but in Porta Palazzo and other, that are not really peripherically from the geographic point of view, but they are popular neighborhoods that in this year are completely changed because population has changed. We have in Barriera di Milano, these neighborhoods, the Italian population is the oldest in the city, but is one of the youngest neighborhoods in the city because we have new inhabitants. So there are the immigrants that arrive with children. So the risk of social conflict and social conflict was very evident. So we started 10 years ago, 15 years ago, to improve public policies for urban regeneration. What does it mean? Why regeneration and not requalification? Because often it's used as the same word, but it's not really the same. Regeneration means that you need to work on the structure, so the hardware of the city, because that is important, as well as on the resources, the identities, the conflicts, the social links. So you need to combine your public policy on the hardware of the city, of the neighborhoods, of the territories, and the software, because otherwise you are not able to change the context where people live. Because the contemporary city takes off the concept of inner city, suburbs, material, immaterial initiatives, before and after. So really we have to consider the neighborhoods of the city as ecosystem.
Yeah.
Ecosystem?
That's good.
Has ecosystem where you have to combine the work on the structure and the work on the people and the species that live in the ecosystem. So we speak about holistic approach, not only integrated approach, but holistic approach that deals with local resources, genius loci, urban quality, local development, and a new concept of welfare that is not assistance. Because the welfare is the well-being of people that live in a territory. So you have to combine all the strategies in order to face with the complexity of these ecosystems. So strategic visions means, the holistic approach means to adopt a kind of strategic visions that concern a wide range of urban life aspects, as health and quality of life, because it's very linked to the environment, urban transformation, the physical approach, because we need to have new structure or renew the structure that were in the city, housing policies and economic development. We have to deal with employment, labor markets, social inclusion policies, and then we need to work on integration, participation, citizenship, democracy. So all the levels are combined in the holistic approach of urban regeneration policies. It's easy to say, it's not so easy to do, but anyway, the principles are clear. Then the instruments and the tools are less clear. Because the neighborhoods and the territories of the city are place for social mix of the inhabitants, cohabitation and intercultural dimension, conflicts in using public spaces and private relations. Often the conflicts within the territories is not ethnic or cultural conflict, but is conflict in using public spaces. All the young of these neighborhoods are non-Italian origins. All the oldest in these neighborhoods are Italian origins. So often the problem is how to use the public garden or the public street because the conflict is between and within generation, young and oldest. But of course they don't recognize each other because they are they think to be different. And then we have to face with the social gaps and the social deprivation that is very clear and evident, and is these last year more clear and more evident than before. Often the neighborhoods, this kind of neighborhoods that are seen as a problem from the mainstream politics often are not problems, are laboratories, are because within these neighborhoods people experience new citizenship, new sense of belonging. The rules are of cohabitation are challenged every day, so are really laboratories. I think they are laboratories of modernity, of contemporary problem. What is difficult to link the work on the ground and the mainstream point of view that don't see the ecosystem, the little life that there is in the ecosystem. So the city is a complex organism that needs local project to regenerate the urban milieu of already lived-in neighborhoods. One of the problems of this kind of neighborhoods, the historical part of the city with problem, is that if you invest only in the hardware and in the structure, the risk is the gentrification. People move in other peripheral areas, and here arrive the new inhabitants that in French are called bobos, bourgeois bohème. But the risk of gentrification is very high normally. So you have to combine hardware and software and to regenerate the urban milieu for already lived-in neighborhoods. Then we need to implement second-generation policies on housing. There's no time to build new neighborhoods with new social public houses. We have to invent new policies trying to face with the fact that for inhabitants it's difficult to be in the private sector of habitation, but they are not so poor to be in the public social housing. So there is a kind of sector of population that is not so much rich and not so much poor, and so is responsibility of the institution and the governance to find out how to face with the new problems. Then local projects that are able to support specific targets of population in situation of deprivation and marginality. That is the point of today. And the keywords, just to give you, because I have only 5 minutes more, is empowerment. So it's important to give tools to people because it's able to face with the complexity. So empowerment, engagement, and responsibility. And then it's important to encourage integration and proximity. So I'm going to end my speech. To adopt a global approach, I think means to have work on three levels of project. One is the transversal and integrated approach, to integrate specialized actors, to go beyond the sectoral competencies, labor, social, housing, etc., to innovate organization and procedures, to manage conflicts and interests. Then it's important to have a territorial approach, to link the general urban policy to the local areas, to mobilize social resources and local institutions, and to valorize the genius loci, because each neighborhood is different from others. And then, at the end, the project approach. So, to work on the private-public partnership to share challenges, aims, goals, and output. That is subsidiarity in Europe, and we call subsidiarity. That is a good principle that then is very difficult to apply in the concrete situation. Thank you.